Across the country, the battle over transgender rights is being waged in state houses.
We're going to make New York a safe haven for trans youth from all across this country.
It's being fought in Congress, in the courts, in schools, and in sports.
Trans kids are all God's children, belong in sports, in schools, in books, in families, and on teams.
No one should be denied athletic opportunity and chances for athletic success, but it's just about playing where is fair.
And in the court of public opinion.
The rhetoric's getting worse. It's not getting better, it's getting worse.
And caught in the middle of it all are the people at the center of this discussion.
I think that if people would understand that we're also human and we have a lot of similarities to other communities, I think that it might kind of get rid of some of that confusion and fear that I think most people feel.
Tonight, we hear their stories.
This is you.
This is me, exactly.
Our KTVU special, This Is Me, Transgender Journeys. Welcome to this KTVU News Special. I'm Claudine Wong. Thank you for joining us for this discussion. The transgender flag is light pink for baby girls, light blue for baby boys, and has a white line representing those who are intersex, gender neutral, or transitioning. Back in 1999, it debuted, and 24 years later, the political attention the transgender community is receiving is unprecedented. Now, according to translegislation.com, right now, there are 568 bills it deems anti-trans. Compare that to 2022, when there were 174. Those bills are being introduced in every state. Delaware is the only exception. And keep in mind, this is a community that is statistically very small. Just 0.5% of all U.S. adults and 1.4% of teens ages 13 to 17 identify as transgender. So we want to take this time to introduce you to just a few Bay Area people in the transgender community and allow them the space to share their stories. The Bay Area is a significant place when you talk about the history of the transgender community. San Francisco was the first city in the country to officially declare August as Transgender History Month. Now California is the first state to do the same.
We can disagree with a lot of issues in California, but we cannot disagree on the existence of trans people.
Transgender History Month coincides with the 1966 Compton cafeteria riots. Those happened in the city's Tenderloin neighborhood, which is now home to the world's first legally recognized transgender district.
The Transgender District in San Francisco was named originally after the Compton cafeteria riots in August of 1966. And our mission really is to create an environment that fosters a rich history that we're recognizing today, culture that we bring and we've brought for centuries, and the legacy of our siblings who may not be here with us today. And the empowerment of transgender people.
The rights of transgender children and their parents continues to be debated. But again, if you look at the statistics, many people may not even know a transgender child. The parents of 7-year-old Hendrix say in the hopes of creating more understanding and acceptance, they are sharing their family's story.
That was the wrong plate.
Lunch with Hendrix is a combination of whipped cream, cookies, crackers, and more whipped cream. Given a little more time, we may have ended up with cake.
Yeah, I love baking. When I start second grade, I'm going to start my own Instagram channel, and I'm going to do a lot of cakes.
On the day we hung out, there were lots of giggles. But children like Hendrix often find themselves the subject of highly charged political conversations.
What about your pronouns? Which ones do you like?
They, them.
Why?
'Cause I was born with a boy body, and then I was a girl, and then I was a neither.
How did you decide which one felt, which pronoun felt good for you?
I just know, since I know that neithers usually have they, them, I wanted to do they, them.
We talked to Hendrix with the permission of their parents.
It's scary to be a mom. It's scary to be a parent. It's scary to be Hendrix. We have had to educate this child in ways that are far beyond the bounds of what a 7-year-old should no.
But Miranda and James say they also hope sharing their family's journey will also help educate others. This is not a journey they anticipated when they started their family.
I think my expectation was going into it was much more of like, I'm going to provide all this knowledge and support and love and, you know, kind of mold this child that we're going to have. And it's how much we got in return in terms of them forming us and our thoughts, I never really expected.
With hens, I think what James and I always talked about was you just worry about it being harder and like how you help with that.
Hard or not, they say they followed Hendrix's lead.
I think when they were probably 2.5 is the first time they like asked for a dress. I feel like as a human, you know what you want and you need. Like it doesn't matter how old you are, like you know. But then there's that is also kind of like goes up against like society and what society thinks and what society wants. So like I remember calling you and being like, hi, Hendrix really wants this frozen dress. Like, I
remember that.
And it was more like a discussion, not of like we wouldn't do it, but it was like, hey, like we're making a choice. Like if we do this, and you're like, yeah, cool. And like we bought it and like I put it on over the little tracksuit. We were at it was at Westfield Mall. And like we went, like they got like a little macaroon after or whatever, and they were like so happy.
Yeah, like their face like lit up, right?
It was, oh my God, like I get like teary, but like truly.
So we kind of just rolled with that. And if it was the dresses, you know, we never said, hey, you should try this on, right? They saw that, they sought it out. And so we just kind of went with this flow.
There was just one day where like we looked in Hendrix's closet and we're like, huh, okay. It's like all dresses now.
For Hendrix, being transgender also meant discovering which pronouns best fit them.
Like they would start to correct people that they were a boy. And so like someone would say like, oh, she's really cute. And Hendrix would turn around and like their thing that they would always say is, I'm a boy actually. And so like it's like seared in my brain how they would say it.
Later, Hendrix decided that didn't feel right.
What was funny is that we asked them like, hey, like, you know, you now say you feel like a girl. Why before were you, you know, saying you're a boy? Like, why'd you think that? And they told us, well, the only reason I thought I was a boy is because you told me I was.
And while Hendrix will tell you this is important to talk about, that doesn't necessarily mean they want to.
Do you like talking about it, or would you rather just not talk about it?
Rather just not.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have to talk about it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I need to remind people about it. Well, I don't really talk about it, just remind.
Yeah.
And I can talk about it with my family.
What do you think about how your mom and dad have been in all of this?
Very nice about it.
And so they navigate this world together as a family.
And I think the thing I am the most proud of that we have done is Hendrix knows they can be whoever they are with us.
They know like just when anything's off that they come back to this house and their parents and they can know they can talk to us.
A little kid who plays with silly putty, loves books and art, someone who likes to eat whipped cream for lunch, and finds joy in so many things.
I don't even see a boy. I don't really see a girl. I just see Hendrix.
What about this is harming you?
Right.
Like, what about this magical human is harmful? Like, literally nothing. They're rad as hell.
When we come back, a look at gender-affirming care and what one gender specialist is saying about it. Welcome back to our KTVU News Special. This is me, Transgender Journeys. In the battle over transgender rights, healthcare is a critical issue. And once again, numbers show more bills focused on gender-affirming care in 2023 than in the last 5 years combined. 35 last year, 170 so far this year. Gender-affirming care can take many forms, from social affirmation to puberty blockers and surgery. We sat down with a clinical family psychologist who focuses on gender for perspective.
Dr. Sean Jamate, or Dr. Sean as he's called by patients, is a clinical family psychologist and is also a gender specialist. A road he didn't pursue, but one that seemed to find him 20 years ago.
A lot of the messaging was kids can't know their gender. You know, there was a lot of that stuff that you're hearing today out there that the clinicians were being taught. I'm trans myself, so the path didn't really make sense to me, and I was actually somebody who identified my gender at 3. I didn't transition until I was 34 because of the time frame within which I was growing up. The model that they were giving wasn't making sense.
What did make sense to him was the gender-affirming model, one he says is about following a person's lead.
The gender-affirmative model isn't about diagnosing identity at all. It's about figuring out what's most authentic for the person in front of you, figuring out if there's incongruence for that person, and then helping deal with the incongruence that's there. And for some kids and adults, that includes gender dysphoria, which is a profound, what I would call existential panic, of that what you see when you look in the mirror or what people are mirroring back to you doesn't match what your internal sense of self is. And it's excruciatingly painful. And that's a piece that I don't think people out there really understand.
The courts are weighing in. A federal judge just struck down a ban on transgender care in Arkansas, in part citing irreparable harm to those who are denied medical care.
I think what we're really asking is what happens to a kid when they're denied access to care, and really what happens besides the psychological piece of things, which is that the level of distress and the level, it's hard to describe. So we see higher rates of suicidality, we see self-harm, substance abuse, getting themselves in risky situations and trauma and all the rest of that.
In that Arkansas case, U.S. District Court Judge James Moody also pushed back against arguments of safety for treatments like puberty-blocking hormones, saying the evidence at trial showed the risks associated with gender-affirming care for adolescents are no greater than the risks associated with many other medical treatments that are not prohibited, and wrote that testimony from teens that received gender-affirming care showed this care allowed them to grow from depressed, anxious, and withdrawn young people into happy and healthy teenagers who look forward to their futures. The state offered no evidence to refute the decades of clinical experience demonstrating the efficacy of gender-affirming medical care.
And so when puberty does hit, for a lot of kids, it can feel like a betrayal. And if they weren't aware earlier. If they were aware earlier, the idea of impending puberty, it really sends them into a huge state of distress.
And when you're talking about distress, Dr. Jean-Maté says parents matter. According to this 2012 study, there was a 4% suicide rate for trans youth with supportive parents, a 57% rate without. 75% without parental support said they suffered from depression, versus 23% with support. And 64% of teens with supportive parents said they had high self-esteem versus 13% who said they weren't supported.
What I find with parents is that they're really scared. They do not want to send their kid down a path that's wrong. They're afraid they're going to do something that their kid's going to regret, and they're going to pay a price for it. And I think the difference is that parents today have better sense that they might have a kid who's gender diverse, not just playing with gender.
And like any conversation, this is one that he says deals with misconceptions about identity and how difficult this journey can really be.
There's this idea that somehow people are wanting to turn people into transgender people. In fact, trans people want to turn people into trans people, and that's so far from the truth. It is not an easy life out there to be transgender, especially right now. Who would choose to go through all of what you have to go through to authentically represent and be able to walk in the world as yourself if it weren't what you really needed to do?
Well, from healthcare, we now turn to sports. According to ESPN, this year, 23 states have passed laws restricting the ability of transgender athletes to participate in school sports. And as the conversation continues, so do the changes in the sports world. It is a debate at every level in sports. World Aquatics just announced it will establish a trial open category at the World Cup in Berlin in October, welcoming swimmers of all sex and gender identities. That competition is a pivotal step to the World Championships and Olympics. Last year, it voted to restrict transgender athletes from competing in elite women's aquatics. And last year, the NCAA announced it would use a sport-by-sport approach in colleges. In California, AB 1266 was signed into law in 2013, allowing transgender students to play in sports in public schools in accordance with their gender identity. But Alaska's Board of Education just banned transgender athletes from girls' sports. Trans athletes like Owen Dempsey, who plays on San Francisco's T-Rex queer and trans softball team, says trans athletes are in a very difficult place.
I wasn't going to play on the girls' team, and the boys' team wasn't an option.
And from celebrities to religion, we have also seen firsts in the transgender community. Off the field, celebrities like Oakland's Amy Schneider made history as one of Jeopardy's first openly transgender champions.
Amy Schneider, that's your third win. You won our $250,000 grand prize.
People of God, I present to you your new bishop, the Reverend Dr. Megan Rohr.
In 2021, the first openly transgender Lutheran bishop from San Francisco celebrated the milestone, serving a year before being let go.
It's been really baffling to me, the level of explicit transphobia that I've experienced in my journey as a bishop.
Stay with us. When we return, a San Francisco restaurant that has been part of this conversation for a quarter of a century tells its story. The transgender discussion has had its impact in business and in entertainment. Carlos Santana, who grew up in San Francisco, has apologized for comments he made about trans people during a New Jersey concert in late July. He told the crowd a woman is a woman and a man is a man. Santana later apologized on social media for, quote, insensitive comments, saying he wants to honor and respect all persons' ideals and beliefs, and wrote, it takes courage to grow and glow in the light that you are and to be true, genuine, and authentic. Musician Cher Straub is also the first transgender woman in professional skateboarding. Here she is in her own words.
In 2015, no one had even said the word transgender to me, really, at that time. If I would have known, it would have been the same day. The moment, basically, I found out, it happened.
The moment you found out?
How to transition, basically, or that you could, and it just, everything made sense and clicked, The first year of transitioning is so hard. It's like a death trap. If you make it the first year, okay, then I feel like it starts. But that first year is the most trying thing. When I meet girls who are transitioning and they're in their first year, I'm terrified for their lives. It's just really scary to me. It's walking out the door is like a battlefield the moment I put lipstick and a dress on, It will be a lifetime thing, probably, I don't think there's it's so specific to every single person, too. So it's really I'll be doing it forever. I exist, I'm valid, so are all these kids.
In the wrestling world, you have Hood Slam, which started in Oakland 13 years ago. It's usually held on the first Friday of every month, and it's now gone global. Sam Khan Dagabadi, who is also known in the wrestling world as Dark Sheik, founded Hood Slam and says for her, performing as a transgender Persian wrestler is the ultimate in self-expression.
Wrestling is just the canvas we paid on, we are the songs we're singing. So like any form of storytelling, it's really not something you can limit. Being okay with gay people and minorities in wrestling, not talking down to our audience, giving them fun characters and storylines for grown-ups. And they really took to it. I'm a lot of things, and one of them is trans, but more importantly, I'm a storyteller, and I like doing things that are new and scary. We're going to do things that are a little bit more risky and provocative.
Authenticity is what performers at Asia SF want people to see when they visit. This year, the iconic restaurant is celebrating 25 years in business.
For 25 years, Asia SF has been about an experience. food, music, and entertainment by performers known as the ladies of Asia SF.
Be this powerful, sexy, beautiful, you know, almost feeling like you're untouchable. You feel like a goddess. You get up there and it's just like you can be whoever you want to be. And then you see the faces of the people in the crowd and they're just really taking it in and accepting it and cheering for you. And, you know, that's very important. It's a very important thing for me.
This experience, this job, this life that we've lived here it pushes you. It pushes you to be a better version of yourself. It pushes you to want more for yourself.
It is a rare space, they will tell you, a place for trans women to not only be their authentic selves, but to celebrate it. This has been that space for a quarter of a century.
My business partner said to me once, and I really believe it, that we probably couldn't have opened this anywhere else 25 years ago. In fact, the word transgender wasn't even in our vocabulary.
Larry Hashbarger is the founder and the CEO of Asia SF.
From day one, we really, you know, it was all about women who were transitioning or had transitioned, and that was really who we were featuring here. And I think we're really pioneers in creating a safe space for the trans community, someplace where they could have a job, where they could make money and, you know, have an apartment, go to school, all the things that a lot of people take for granted. And back in those days, especially for a lot of trans women, that was a real challenge.
Through the years, the goal has stayed the same. This is a place for both the performers and the audience.
What I try to do when I choreograph is I try to make sure it's a number that leaves you with a feeling. You never forget a feeling. Coming into here, there's a magic in the music, in the costume, in the performance. You don't get that anywhere else.
It is also an opportunity to learn.
You'd be surprised how many people haven't met a trans person, or at least they don't know they've met a trans person. But here, I mean, it's very obvious. It's kind of part of the whole, you know, package, you know.
I get a lot of questions about my appearance, obviously. They ask, you know, what did you do? How did you do it? You know, where, why, you know. Some come and they are not even in belief that we are what we are, and they will ask us. And, you know, I love to always educate people, and I love to always be honest. I feel like the truth always sets me free.
And I think that if people would understand that we're also human and we have a lot of similarities to other communities, I think that it might kind of get rid of some of that confusion and fear that I think most people feel.
So they hope you get to know them. Blair can tell you about growing up in the Bay Area, about what she says she knew about her identity even at the age of 3, and how she transitioned when she was 14.
We go to the grocery store like this, maybe not like this, but
that'd be a fabulous
great.
way to go to the grocery
I'd
store.
love to, but you know, we go to the grocery store like this, we see our families like this, and
this is you.
This is me, exactly.
Michaela can tell you about growing up in Hawaii with 6 other siblings. She might show you pictures of her underwater and horseback adventures, or she can tell you about her other job in the medical field. And she can tell you how much it means when the people who come to see her end up actually seeing her.
Some people, they won't even look at me. By the end of the show, a lot of those same people that don't even look at me, don't interact with me, they come up to me and they're just like, oh my God, like the show was so amazing. You're wonderful. You're deserving of all of these things. And it's so overwhelming because I wasn't expecting it. But to get that reaction, it really fills my heart.
So 25 years later, each night is a celebration.
There will never be another Michaela. There'll never be another Blair. So why copy someone else? Do you. You can only do you the best way you do you.
And no matter what the next 25 look like, this will always be the place where Asia SF began.
I think that there would be other places where you could be successful, but there'll never be another San Francisco, even if we did that. So I know this is the OG. This is the original.
And that's going to do it for our special discussion today. This is me, Transgender Journeys. Our hope is that the stories you've heard here give you a glimpse into the depth of this conversation. Thank you to all those who shared what is a personal journey. We know that requires vulnerability, and it also sacrifices privacy and, for some, safety and security. From the KTVU studios, I'm Claudine Wong. Thanks for watching.